And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Sunday morning. We've got pretty good conditions here over much of mainland Alaska. Lower IFR, at least starting the day off here over the upper Tanana Valley, down into the eastern Copper River Basin, mainly over the mountainous terrain. IFR up there over the North Slope, and IFR here southeastern Bering Sea from about Adak eastward along the Aleutians to the Alaska Peninsula, and VFR here, Kodiak Island across the Gulf of Alaska and into much of the Panhandle. Still some IFR up in the northern areas, but that's gone in the afternoon with VFR. All the southeast coast, again along the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island northward across the Brooks Range, and then marginal VFR there with maybe some isolated IFR for the Arctic coast. And with that front coming eastward, here's some IFR pushing into the southwest coastal areas right through there, extending back down to the eastern Aleutians and along the Alaska Peninsula. And then for Monday morning, this area moving in, so we got quite an area of IFR invading the western and southwest part of the interior here, all the way up to the western Alaska Range. VFR to the east and to the northwest there, but some marginal VFR up here over the Yukon Flats, and possible IFR along the central Arctic coast there, but improving back here to the west. Panhandle looks like VFR for Sunday or for Monday morning, and through the afternoon stays pretty good here for the southeast coast. Interior, different story, all that moisture spreading eastward here, so a lot of areas of IFR here from the North Gulf Coast there and south central Alaska right up into the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. North of the mountains up there, some VFR, and then back to marginal VFR for the central Arctic coast. Northern Bering Sea, marginal VFR, and then a big area of VFR here breaking out over the central Aleutians as well as the Fox Islands. And for passes, tomorrow, Brooks Range, VFR for both Adigan and Anatuvik. And the Alaska Range looking good as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy VFR. It'll be good VFR for Windy. And Isabel, some lower conditions for Mentasta early. Call it marginal VFR, but that'll become VFR at least by the afternoon hours and through the evening. Tanita, VFR. Portage, same forecast, good VFR. And also for Chilkoot and White. Freezing levels here, warmer air down over the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians there from 8,000 foot freezing levels plus, dropping back to 2,000 feet here just west of Nunivak Island, and then 2,000 feet right along the North Gulf Coast tomorrow morning, and 4,000 feet around Prince of Wales Island over to Misty Fjords. And icing with the system coming eastward here, look for increasing chances for some isolated moderate rime icing into the southwest coast and locally inland, and then the heavier icing there, Nunivak Island extending down just east of the Pribilof Islands, and then icing trailing along the frontal boundary from about Atka eastward to Unalaska Island. Otherwise, most of this is south of the area now of the Panhandle, so pretty much icing free over the remainder of the state. Jet stream here, pretty good southwest flow, 125 knots. It's going to be pushing that system right into the interior, up and over the top of this ridge farther to the south here, 105 knots, and northwest 105 into the western Gulf of Alaska. 9,000 feet, again 60 knot winds out of the southwest here, eastern Bering Sea blowing right into the southwest coast, and west 45 over the Aleutians. And at 3,000 feet, basically high pressure at this elevation, dominating much of interior Alaska from the Arctic coast down into the Gulf Panhandle for pretty light winds. Stronger winds, low pressure here tracking eastward, 50 knot winds associated with that, so that'll translate into some considerable moderate turbulence there for the Yukon Delta coast, Nunivak Island area, as well as Unalaska Island into the western Alaska Peninsula.